7 years, 2,555 days. That's how long Jackson Reed had been gone. Gone from his hometown of Crescent Hollow, Montana. Gone from his old life. Gone from the people who once believed he'd become someone great. But most importantly, he had been gone from himself. The bus rattled down an empty 2-lane highway, cutting through amber fields and frostbitten pines. Jackson stared out the window at the mountains. The same mountains he used to hike as a teenager. The same ones he once swore he'd never return to. But life has a strange way of dragging you back to the places you ran from. He stepped off the bus with one small duffel bag. Everything he owned. His boots crunched against the gravel. His breath fogged in the icy Montana air. He wasn't sure what felt colder, the wind, or the weight of the past he was returning to. The reason he left America. 7 years ago, Jackson Reed was the golden boy of Crescent Hollow, a rising architect, top of his class, interning with a prestigious firm in Seattle, engaged to a brilliant girl named Ava Dalton, who believed he would change the skyline of the country. Then everything collapsed in a single night. It happened at a construction site in Washington, the first major project Jackson was allowed to supervise. A scaffolding structure failed. 2 workers were injured. 1 nearly died. Someone needed to take the fall. And even though it wasn't Jackson's fault, even though he had reported the weak beams weeks earlier, the company whispered that it would be cleaner if the blame fell on the new guy. At the same time, Jackson's younger brother Mason Reed had spiraled into addiction. He was arrested after breaking into a pharmacy. Jackson had 2 choices: fight for his career or protect his brother. He made the choice that destroyed everything. He took the blame, publicly, completely. And overnight, he became a cautionary tale. The reckless young architect who nearly killed workers through negligence. His engagement shattered. His reputation was ruined. His future evaporated. And so, Jackson vanished. He disappeared to the outskirts of the country, from Nevada to Colorado to small, forgotten towns in Texas, doing odd jobs, construction labor, farm work, anything that kept him moving. He sent money to keep Mason in rehab, but he never went home, never called Ava, never tried to fight his case. Running became easier than facing the wreckage. The reason he came back now, after 7 years, he was returning not by choice, but by necessity. A letter had arrived at one of the ranches he was working on. It carried only 6 words. Mason needs you. Come home now. It was written by Dr. Liliana Hayes, the therapist who had been guiding Mason's recovery for years. Jackson didn't ask questions, didn't think twice, didn't pack much. He boarded the next bus back to Montana. The first person he met. Jackson walked through Crescent Hollow, which hadn't changed much. Old diners, old trucks, old faces. But every familiar street felt like an accusation. When he reached his family home, a weathered blue house with chipped paint, he found Dr. Hayes waiting on the porch. She rose to her feet with a warm, exhausted smile. "Jackson Reed," she said softly, "you came fast." "I didn't know I had the luxury of being slow," he replied. She nodded. "Mason relapsed." The words punched the air out of his lungs. "How bad?" Jackson asked. "Not as bad as before," she said. "But emotionally, worse. He's been hiding how badly he misses you." Jackson lowered his eyes. "I didn't think me being around would help him." "You disappearing is the very thing that broke him," she said. Jackson looked away, jaw clenched. Dr. Hayes placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're home now. That's the first step." The brother he left behind. Inside the house, Mason sat on the couch, hoodie pulled over his head, fingers tapping anxiously. When he looked up and saw Jackson, his eyes widened in disbelief. "Jax," Mason whispered. Jackson froze. Mason stood slowly. He looked thinner than Jackson remembered. Tired, fragile, older, but broken in all the same places. You came back, Mason said. Jackson swallowed hard. I should have come back sooner. Mason's lip trembled. You didn't have to come back at all. I thought, after everything, you hated me. Jackson shook his head violently. Mason, I never hated you. I hated what you were becoming. I hated seeing you fall apart. I hated the way the world treated us. But I never hated you. Mason's voice cracked. Then, why didn't you come home? Jackson didn't answer. He didn't know how to answer. How do you tell someone that you ran away because you believed they deserved better than the wreck you had become? Mason stepped forward and hugged him. For the first time in 7 years, Jackson held his brother again. Later that night, Jackson left the house to clear his mind. The cold Montana air bit at his face as he walked down Main Street, past familiar buildings he used to sketch as a boy. And that's when he saw her, standing beside a parked car, flipping through papers. Ava Dalton, his ex-fiancée, the woman he once planned to marry, the woman whose heart he shattered without explanation. Her hair was a little shorter now, her expression sharper, her posture more confident. She wasn't the girl he remembered. She was a woman who had lived a whole life without him. Jackson froze. But before he could escape, she looked up. Their eyes locked. Jackson felt his chest tighten. Ava blinked in shock. Then, masking it instantly, she said, Jackson Reed. Back from the dead? Her tone was cool, sharp, professional. Not the Ava he once knew. Ava, he whispered. She closed her folder. I heard rumors you were back. Didn't believe them. I'm just here for Mason. Of course, she said. Always for Mason. Never for yourself. He winced. Ava stepped closer, studying him. You look different, she said quietly. Tired. Older. Lost. Jackson didn't respond. Ava moved past him toward her car. But don't worry, she added. We're not picking up where we left off. Those days are long gone. She got into her car and drove away. Jackson stood alone in the cold street. For the first time since returning, he realized coming home might hurt more than being gone. Jackson walked home slowly, Ava's words replaying in his head like a wound that had never fully healed. Always for Mason, never for yourself. Was that true? Maybe it was. He left to save his brother. He stayed away to avoid hurting Ava again. He disappeared because he believed disappearing was the only thing he was good at. And now, fate had dragged him back into the same town, with the same ghosts, with the same regrets. The cold bit deeper as he made his way down the dimly lit road. Montana nights were silent, the kind of silence that forced a man to confront the thoughts he'd spent years avoiding. When he finally returned home, Mason was asleep on the couch, curled under a blanket with the TV still glowing faintly. Jackson watched him for a moment. Mason looked younger like this, peaceful, almost innocent. How could one person's struggle destroy 2 lives? Jackson exhaled a long breath, then whispered to himself, one step at a time. The next morning, a strange invitation. Jackson woke up at sunrise to the smell of frying eggs. Dr. Hayes stood in the kitchen, still in her coat and scarf, flipping eggs like she owned the place. He blinked in confusion. You cook here now? She smiled. Mason responds better when mornings feel normal. Routine is part of recovery. He nodded. Sit, she said, pointing at a chair like he was one of her patients. He sat. She placed a plate in front of him. You'll need energy today. For what? He asked. Dr. Hayes sipped her coffee. You're coming to Mason's therapy session. Jackson stiffened. Therapy? With him? Yes. I don't do well with... You don't do well with facing things, Jackson Reed. I know. He sighed. She leaned forward. Mason talks about you every week. You're the anchor in his story, the missing piece. And if he's going to recover fully, he needs you present in that room. Jackson swallowed. Okay, he finally said. I'll go. The therapy room was warm, lined with soft lighting and shelves of books. A small table sat in the center with 3 chairs. Mason sat already, looking nervous. Jackson took the seat across from him. Dr. Hayes sat between them. There was an uncomfortable silence. Mason finally spoke. "I didn't think you'd show up." "I said I would," Jackson replied. "You used to say a lot of things." Jackson winced. Dr. Hayes leaned forward. "Let's start simple. Mason, what do you want Jackson to understand?" Mason stared at his shoes. "That the day he left, I blamed myself for everything." Jackson felt his chest tighten. "Mason, I'm not finished," Mason said. He looked up, eyes shaky. "Every time I slipped, every relapse, every bad day, I told myself you left because you couldn't stand being around me." Jackson's throat went dry. "I left because I thought staying would make things worse," Jackson whispered. "And because I thought Ava deserved someone better. And because I thought I'd ruined my entire career and future." Dr. Hayes spoke softly. "And instead of healing, you punished yourself for 7 years." Jackson looked away, ashamed. Mason stared at him. "You should have told me," Mason said. "You should have talked to me instead of disappearing." "I know," Jackson said. "And if you try to run again," Mason's voice cracked, "I won't survive it." Jackson swallowed hard. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. For the first time in the session, Mason believed him. After therapy, Jackson went to grab coffee at an old diner he used to visit. The waitress, Rosie, recognized him instantly. "Well, I'll be damned," she said. "If it isn't Jackson Reed. Back from outer space?" Jackson smiled awkwardly. "Something like that." Rosie handed him a menu. "Your ex-fiancée was just in here this morning." He tensed. "Oh?" "Yep, she was meeting with the city folks." "City folks? For what?" Rosie blinked at him like he should know. "She's the head urban planner for Crescent Hollow now." Jackson froze. Ava. His Ava. Now the town's urban planner? "She's leading the big redevelopment project," Rosie said casually, pouring coffee. "Some new cultural center or something. Big deal." Jackson's brain buzzed. A cultural center? A major architectural project. In his hometown. And Ava was running it? He sat back, stunned. 7 years ago, he was supposed to be the architect shaping buildings across America. Now Ava, the woman he left to protect, was the one building the future he'd abandoned. Rosie leaned in. "You might want to talk to her, Jackson. A project like that changes a town." Jackson stared into his coffee. "No," he said softly. "A project like that changes a life." The second twist, a offer. He didn't expect that afternoon. Jackson walked downtown again, unsure what he was looking for. Clarity? Closure? Courage? Instead, he found Ava. She stepped out of the city planning office, holding a rolled-up blueprint tube under her arm. She froze when she saw him. "You're everywhere today," she muttered. "I wasn't following you," he said quickly. "I know," she said flatly. "You're not that interesting." Still the same sharpness, still the same fire. Ava sighed, then surprised him by saying, "Actually, I wanted to talk to you." Jackson blinked. "You wanted to talk to me?" Ava nodded reluctantly. "My team reviewed the old scaffolding incident from 7 years ago." His stomach dropped. "Ava, and we discovered something." Jackson's blood ran cold. "What did you find?" he whispered. Ava looked him straight in the eyes. "That accident? You didn't cause it." Jackson's breath stopped. "What?" "The beams were faulty. The supplier hid it. The firm buried the evidence to protect themselves." Jackson felt dizzy. Ava continued. "You were innocent, Jackson. Completely." His knees felt weak. 7 years. 7 years of guilt. 7 years of exile. 7 years of believing he destroyed everything. And now, you're telling me My life fell apart over a lie? Over a cover-up, Ava corrected. And if you're ready, you could come back from it. Jackson stared at her, stunned. Ava handed him a folder. Join the redevelopment project as a design advisor, she said. It's not charity. You're still talented. And this town needs someone who understands it. He shook his head slowly. Ava, why would you help me? After everything I did. After leaving you like that. Ava's eyes softened for a moment. Because I spent years hating you, she whispered. And I'm tired of hating ghosts. She stepped back. The offer is real. Think about it. She turned to leave. Jackson called after her. Ava. She paused. He swallowed. Thank you. Ava didn't look back. She simply whispered, I'm not doing it for you, Jackson Reed. I'm doing it for the town you left behind. She walked away, leaving him speechless. Jackson sat on the bench outside the old town hall, staring at the folder Ava had left behind. Blueprints, reports, lists of damages, plans for redevelopment. Each page was a reminder of the past he had abandoned and the future he could still influence. He ran his hands through his hair. 7 years. 7 years wasted on guilt. Yet here he was, back in Crescent Hollow, back in the heart of everything he had left behind. And somehow, it felt like the town itself had been waiting for him. Reconnecting with the town. The first step was small. He visited the old diner, where Rosie greeted him like a long-lost brother. Glad to see you back, she said with a wink. I've heard stories, you know. People still talk about the guy who vanished. Jackson smiled faintly. I didn't vanish. I survived. Yeah, surviving is one thing, she said. Facing people after you've been gone for 7 years? That's a whole different challenge. He chuckled, a sound rusty from disuse. 7 years had hardened him, but it had also taught him patience. Small steps. That's all he could manage for now. The next morning, Jackson made his way to the redevelopment office. Ava was there, reviewing more blueprints with her team. Ready to see the town? She asked as he stepped in. I guess, he muttered. She smiled faintly. We start small. You walk me through the old theater district. It's the first phase of the project. Walking together, Jackson noticed details he'd overlooked before. Cracked walls, broken windows, faded signs. This place was full of memories, he said softly. Memories can be painful, Ava replied, but sometimes they remind us why we build again. He nodded. 7 years of hiding, 7 years of exile, 7 years of pain. It was time to rebuild, not just the town, but himself. That afternoon, Jackson returned to his old family home. Dust covered the furniture. Old photographs stared at him from the walls. Then, under the loose floorboard in his room, he found it. A folded, yellowed envelope with his name scrawled in familiar handwriting. Opening it, he realized it was from his father. Long past. Jackson, I know you feel lost. You always have a compass inside you, even when you can't see it. Go back, fix what you can. Live for the ones who still remember you. Dad. Tears pricked his eyes. For the first time, he felt the weight of those lost years shift into possibility. The first night in 7 years. That night, Jackson stayed at the old house, listening to the quiet hum of Crescent Hollow. No city lights, no noise, just stars. He thought of Mason, of Ava, of the friends he had neglected. And he made a vow. He would not disappear again. Not from the town, not from the people who mattered, not from himself. Sleep came finally, heavy but cleansing. The reconnection with Mason the next day, he visited Mason again. I need to tell you something, Jackson said, sitting down beside his brother. Mason looked up, a mixture of hope and fear in his eyes. I know I left you, and I know I hurt you more than anyone can understand, Jackson began, But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. I'll help you every step of the way. We rebuild together." Mason's eyes filled with tears. "You mean it?" "I mean it," Jackson said firmly. "No more running. No more hiding." For the first time in 7 years, they laughed together. The kind of laugh that comes from relief, not joy. A laugh that signals a second chance. The first phase of the project. With Ava's guidance, Jackson began designing a new community center in the heart of Crescent Hollow. He worked late into the night, often joined by Ava and her team. The walls began to rise. The streets began to feel alive again. He realized something crucial. The town wasn't just rebuilding. He was rebuilding himself. Every beam, every brick, every blueprint was a testament to the years he had lost, and to the life he was determined to reclaim. For the shocking discovery. One evening, while reviewing old blueprints from the theater district, Jackson noticed something odd. A small, hidden tunnel beneath the theater had gone unnoticed. He called Ava. "This could be dangerous," she said, "but it might also be exactly what we need to preserve the town's history." They explored together and found artifacts from the town's early settlers, documents, photos, even a diary detailing the lives of families from over a century ago. It was a treasure trove of history, waiting to be restored. And in that moment, Jackson realized the truth. Crescent Hollow wasn't just a town, it was a story, and he was part of it again. The hidden tunnel beneath the theater became Jackson's obsession. Each day, after helping rebuild the streets and community center, he returned to the narrow, dusty passageways with Ava. The air smelled of age and damp wood. Cobwebs hung like curtains in the corners. Every step echoed as if the walls themselves whispered forgotten stories. "This place, it's incredible," Ava said, brushing dust off a centuries-old ledger. Jackson nodded, eyes wide with curiosity and caution. "It's more than incredible," he replied softly. "It's proof that Crescent Hollow has always been more than what we see on the surface. And maybe, just maybe, it can teach us something about ourselves, too." Among the artifacts, Jackson discovered a leather-bound diary. Its pages were fragile, filled with faded ink and meticulous handwriting. He opened it carefully. It belonged to a man named Elias Granger, one of the town's earliest settlers. The diary spoke of struggles, harsh winters, scarce resources, and disputes among families. It also revealed a hidden network of tunnels used by townspeople during difficult times, sometimes to hide from threats, sometimes to protect treasures and secrets. Jackson's heart raced. "This isn't just history," he whispered. "It's a road map, a map of survival, of resilience, just like what we need today." Over the next few days, Jackson began noticing odd things. Footprints in the dust that weren't his. A shadowy figure glimpsed at the edge of the street at night. A locked door in the tunnel that wasn't marked on any blueprint, he told Ava. She frowned. "Someone else knows about the tunnels," she said, "and they might not have good intentions." Jackson felt a surge of protectiveness, not just for the town, but for the people who had trusted him again. As construction on the community center progressed, Jackson also began reaching out to old friends and neighbors. Many had felt abandoned by him. Some were wary. Some were outright angry. He faced them all with honesty, admitting his mistakes. "I left," he said to one group of elders. "I ran when I shouldn't have. But I'm back, and I'm here to help, to rebuild, and to ensure Crescent Hollow thrives again." Slowly, the town's trust returned. Small gestures, shared memories, and acts of collaboration began to knit the community back together. The hidden treasure. One stormy night, Jackson ventured deeper into the tunnel alone. Lightning flashed through the cracks above, illuminating a small wooden chest tucked beneath a pile of rubble. He opened it, Inside were coins, jewelry, and documents detailing land deeds from the earliest settlers. "This is unbelievable," he murmured. "This can change everything for the town." But with the discovery came a sense of unease. Someone else might want this treasure. And if they did, Crescent Hollow could be in danger once again. A disturbing message. The following morning, Jackson found a note slipped under the door of the community center. "Stop digging. Some things are meant to stay buried." A friend. He shared it with Ava. She looked concerned. "Or it could be a threat," she said. "And I don't think it's from a friend." Jackson clenched his fists. 7 years ago, he had learned the hard way that threats were meant to be faced, not ignored. He glanced at the diary, the chest, the town's streets he had vowed to protect. No more running. No more hiding. This time, he would confront the shadows, whatever they were. Despite the threat, Jackson decided to involve the townspeople in the reconstruction process. Workshops, community meetings, and collaborative projects became a way to strengthen bonds. Children helped paint murals. Families cleared debris. Elders shared stories of the town's past. It wasn't just about buildings. It was about healing wounds, reconnecting lives, and restoring pride in Crescent Hollow. Jackson realized that the hidden tunnel, the treasure, and the secrets were secondary. The real wealth was the town itself, and the people who made it alive again. The night of decision. One night, Jackson returned to the tunnel with Ava to explore the locked door. Their flashlights cut through darkness, illuminating carvings on the walls, symbols from Elias Granger's diary. The door creaked as Jackson pushed it open. Inside was a small room filled with more artifacts, maps, old letters, and an inventory of historical items meant to preserve the town's legacy. But in the shadows, a figure stepped forward. "Looking for something, Jackson Reed." Jackson froze. Ava gripped his arm. The stranger revealed himself, a descendant of a rival town family, long thought gone. "I've been guarding this place for years," he said, "and now it seems the time has come to decide who really deserves Crescent Hollow's future." Jackson's heart pounded. The past and present collided, and the fate of the town, the hidden treasures, and the legacy of its people hung in the balance. The stranger in the tunnel was tall, imposing, and carried the weight of generations in his eyes. "I am Malcolm Whitaker," he said, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "My family has guarded these secrets for over a century. You have stumbled into what was never meant to be uncovered." Jackson stood his ground, the diary clutched tightly in his hand. "Secrets are meant to teach, not terrify," Jackson replied firmly. "The town deserves to know its history. It deserves to thrive, not hide behind shadows of fear." Malcolm's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand the responsibility, Jackson Reed. This is bigger than treasure, bigger than the tunnels. It's about power, control, and the safety of Crescent Hollow. Some knowledge can destroy as easily as it can protect." The legacy challenge. Ava stepped forward. "We've already seen what hiding can do. Families torn apart, the town nearly abandoned. We're not here to take anything. We're here to preserve it, for everyone." Malcolm studied her carefully. Finally, he sighed, lowering his guard just slightly. "Very well," he said. "But you must prove that your intentions are pure. This isn't a test of strength, but of heart." Jackson's mind raced. He knew the challenge wasn't physical. It was about trust, courage, and honesty. The kind of qualities that had been absent in Crescent Hollow for far too long. The trial of the tunnels. Malcolm led Jackson and Ava through a series of narrow, hidden passages beneath the town. Ancient tunnels that twisted like a living labyrinth. Along the walls were inscriptions, some cryptic, others poetic. They spoke of sacrifice, endurance, and the importance of community. "You must remember," Malcolm said, "these tunnels were built by those who came before. They preserved our town, our stories, and our lives. If you cannot honor that, then leave now and forget what you have found." Jackson felt the weight of every word. He realized that the tunnels themselves were a metaphor, paths through hardship, choices that define generations. He vowed silently to honor the courage and wisdom of the past. For the hidden revelation, at the heart of the labyrinth, Malcolm stopped before a massive stone wall. With a series of hidden levers and intricate mechanisms, he revealed a secret chamber. Inside were artifacts more priceless than gold, original letters from the first settlers, historical maps showing lost farmland and waterways, tools and documents that told the true story of Crescent Hollow's founding. And among the collection, Jackson discovered a parchment with his own surname written alongside Elias Granger. "My family?" Jackson whispered. I didn't know we were part of this." Malcolm nodded. "Your ancestors were key in preserving the town during its darkest times. Now, it falls upon you to continue their legacy." Jackson walked through the streets that evening, reflecting on everything he had learned. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Forgiveness rebuilds more than walls ever could. Secrets may hide in shadows, but truth and unity shine brightest when shared. He paused at the community center, now alive with laughter and music. Ava joined him, smiling. "We did it," she said softly. "No, we didn't just do it," Jackson replied, looking around. "We lived it. And now, Crescent Hollow can finally thrive." The wind carried a sense of renewal through the town. For the first time in decades, Crescent Hollow felt whole again. Its past honored, its present embraced, and its future secure. The days that followed were a whirlwind of restoration, celebration, and quiet reflection. Jackson Reed became a figure of trust in Crescent Hollow. Though still young, his insight and humility inspired those around him. Every morning, he walked through the town, greeting neighbors and listening to their stories. Each tale reminded him that the true treasure of Crescent Hollow wasn't hidden gold or secret artifacts. It was its people. Families who had once been divided over land disputes and old feuds now shared meals and repaired homes together. Elders taught younger generations the lessons of patience and perseverance. The abandoned mills and farms were slowly restored, not as profit-driven ventures, but as community projects that connected everyone. Jackson and Ava often volunteered, lending their hands to paint walls, plant gardens, and revive old traditions. "The town is alive again," Ava said one afternoon, as they rested beneath a large oak tree in the town square. "Not because of treasure, but because of trust." Jackson nodded. "And trust, once broken, is the hardest thing to rebuild. But it's the most valuable legacy we can leave." One evening, Malcolm Whitaker returned to the town quietly, his presence unnoticed. He observed the thriving community, proud but cautious. In his hands, he carried a small, leather-bound notebook, another artifact from the old tunnels. He left it on the steps of the community center with a note. "To those who preserve Crescent Hollow, may you remember the lessons of courage, humility, and unity. History is not only what happened, it's what we choose to honor and carry forward." When Jackson found it, he read the words aloud to Ava, his voice steady with reverence. "It seems the past still has lessons for us," he said softly. Challenges of modernity. Even with newfound unity, Crescent Hollow faced challenges. Economic pressures, changing landscapes, and the temptation of outside investors tested the community's resolve. Jackson understood that leadership wasn't about commanding, but guiding. He encouraged town councils, workshops, and forums where residents could voice concerns and propose solutions. Slowly, Crescent Hollow adapted. New businesses emerged, but they were community-owned. Old roads and bridges were repaired, not just for convenience, but as symbols of the town's enduring spirit. A legacy of stories. Jackson decided to create a local archive, a library and museum to honor Crescent Hollow's past. Letters, artifacts, and diaries were preserved. Stories of bravery, mistakes, and triumphs were recorded. Children visited regularly, learning about the sacrifices that shaped their town. Ava worked alongside him, curating exhibits and writing guides for visitors. "It's more than history," she said. "It's a living reminder that our actions matter." The final revelation. Months later, Jackson returned to the secret tunnels one last time. The stone walls, the intricate passages, and the hidden chambers now felt like old friends. He approached the central chamber, where the most important artifacts were kept. A soft light seemed to dance on the walls as he ran his fingers over the inscriptions left by his ancestors. Among the notes, he found one written in a hand he recognized: Elias Granger, his great-great-grandfather. To those who find this, remember, courage is born of love, and love is born of action. Protect the town, its people, and its stories. The rest will follow. Jackson smiled, understanding fully that his journey had never been about fame, fortune, or even discovery. It had been about stewardship. As the years passed, Crescent Hollow grew steadily, balancing tradition with innovation. Jackson and Ava married under the old oak tree in the town square, surrounded by friends, family, and neighbors. Children laughed in the streets where once silence and fear reigned. Every year, the town held a festival celebrating its history, its people, and the legacy of those who had sacrificed for its future. And in the quiet moments, Jackson would stand at the edge of the town, looking toward the hills, remembering the tunnels, the secrets, and the journey that had changed everything. He understood now that Crescent Hollow's real treasure was never locked in stone. It had always been the spirit of its people, the courage of its youth, and the lessons passed down through generations. The story of Jackson Reed and the hidden tunnels of Crescent Hollow became a legend, told around fireplaces and in classrooms. It inspired neighboring towns, proving that unity, courage, and honesty could overcome even the deepest secrets and darkest fears. And as the sun set over the town, casting golden light across the hills and valleys, one truth remained clear. History is not just a collection of events, it's the heartbeat of a community, nurtured by those who dare to honor the past while shaping the future. Crescent Hollow had survived, it had thrived, and it would continue to do so for generations to come.